Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're here today, and we want to take a time as pastors to share some thoughts on the online gaming bills that are being proposed. My name is Gary Click. I am pastor emeritus of the Fremont Baptist Temple in Fremont, Ohio. I am also state representative for Ohio's 88th House District. And as we look at this online gaming, we think this is a bad bet for Ohio. And when you look at some things, even some things that are produced by OMOS, which I have here in front of me, right here by the state of Ohio, it says, amid the rapid expansion of the sports gambling and gaming industry in Ohio, Ohio has established itself as a national leader in what? In the treatment of gambling disorders. So we create the disorders, then we treat the disorders. We're working both sides of this. And we have some statistics here that tell us that those at risk for gambling, when you go back to 2012, it was 5.7%. You come 10 years later to 2022, and it's 19.5%. That almost is tripled in 10 years. Those who have gambling disorder, that are working with gambling. We know that gambling appeals to those who have the lowest education, the lowest income, and the greatest debt. As we increase gambling, especially online gambling, we are harming the most vulnerable people in the state of Ohio. Gambling is addictive all by itself. And we find that when you add the video component, when you put it on a device like this, how many times do you actually see someone without their phone? Phones are extremely addictive. Put video games on the phones. I remember when I was a kid, we had video games, and you played for so long, you had 3 lives, 4 lives, and then game over. Games aren't designed that way anymore. Games are designed to suck you in and to create an addictive nature. And so you don't just end, you go to the next level, and to the next level, and the next level. Now you add that to gambling, and you put it in the palm of your hand. When you can do it at home, you can do it in the bedroom, you can do it in the living room, you can do it in the car, you can do it at work, you can do it on your lunch break, you can do it no matter where you are. That addictive nature follows you. It's in your back pocket, it's in your front pocket, it's in your vest pocket. That addiction is going to expand enormously. And what happens with that? We know that 80% of people who struggle with addiction, gambling addiction very specifically, have also experienced suicidal ideation. What happens? You gamble your life savings away. You gamble your grocery money away. You gamble the water bill away, and the light bill, and the gas bill. And how are you going to go home and tell your wife? How are you going to go home and tell your kids you don't have any money? And you can't buy the things that they need. And that becomes a very depressing thing for a young man. And young men especially, are more susceptible to these addictions. This is a bad bet for Ohio. In fact, 20% of people with gambling addiction have attempted suicide. But we're going to make money off of this. I just don't think that's a good bet. And I think that Ohio, both as a pastor and as a legislator, I believe that we need to steer away from online gambling. We need to not put this addiction. We're taking the phones out of the hands of the kids in school, and we're putting them in the hand of those who are prone to addiction. And it's going to hurt their families. It's going to destroy their homes. It's going to destroy lives. I can't think of a just or noble reason to do that. I'd like to introduce now my fellow legislator and pastor, Representative Jonathan Newman. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Click. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a joy to be here with you all. I'm thankful to be asked to join with you all. My name is Pastor and Representative Jonathan Newman. I'm a pastor of our church in Troy, Ohio, and I'm also the representative of District 80 there, Miami County and Southern Dark County. And I am thankful that pastors have been asked to express their views and concerns about the expansion of gambling in the state of Ohio. And I think this also expresses the reason that everyone needs a pastor. Everyone needs a church. because we need to understand how these things affect everybody in the state of Ohio and how to think the right way. And I think how to think biblically about this issue. So gambling is the wrong move. I want to make that very clear. As a pastor, as a representative, I agree with my fellow representative and a number of others in the legislature who know that gambling is the wrong move for Ohio. It's the wrong move because gambling is harmful. Sure, some of my friends gamble a little bit and no harm done. But for lots of others, there's a lot of harm done. Some gamble and don't stop, and they begin to be deceived by the allure. In 2023, gambling was expanded in Ohio to include sports gambling. That was 2023. In 2 years, the number of addictions, gambling addictions in Ohio has tripled. You heard that once. I want you to hear that again. In 2 years, the number of addictions to gambling in Ohio have tripled since we expanded gambling. The expansion of gambling will not decrease the number of addictions. Of course, it will increase them. And as you have heard, I want to repeat again, those with gambling addictions, among other addictions, are the most likely to become suicidal. Those with gambling addiction are the most likely to become suicidal. 20% of them attempting suicide. And so gambling addicts are the most likely to end their lives. So expanding gambling is the wrong move because it causes such harm. Why would any state, why would Ohio make a move to triple the number of those who will attempt to end their lives this year? Well, why would anyone be for the expansion of gambling? Well, when that question is asked, you get the quick answer. Well, you're going to make a lot of money. Well, how much money is enough? How much money is enough to justify tripling the number of suicides in our state? Well, the answer is, well, we're going to make a lot of money from gambling. Hundreds of millions of dollars will be added to our revenue. Well, where do those funds go? Where do they go? Well, of course, we know most of the money from gambling goes to the gambling companies who make billions off of families in Ohio losing every year. Yes, but some of those funds will be revenue that we will spend to fund our schools in Ohio. So isn't that a brilliant move? Well, that is my biggest problem with expanding gambling, because this idea would increase our dependency on gambling to pay for our schools. It's the exact same idea that the gambling addict can't stop thinking. What does the gambling addict think? If I just gamble more, all my problems will go away. But that is never what happens. The gambling addict is deceived. He believes the terrible lie that if he just keeps on gambling his family's money away, he will get the big win and all of his problems will be solved. But that doesn't work. No, the addict just keeps losing more and more of the family's money, hoping to score the big windfall. The idea of expanding gambling in Ohio to fund education is deceived with the exact same thought. If we just add more gambling, we will hit the big windfall, and all of our education problems will be solved. Quite a gamble. We should be paying for education the right way. Education should matter. That is why you are listening to these pastors say to you that gambling is, we use the word vice. Gambling is a vice. A vice is the opposite of a virtue. A vice is an immoral act that leads to the harm or destruction of one's character, individual or the entire state. The opposite of a vice is a virtue. A virtue is a good that builds up one's character, that expresses good character, that strengthens those around them. The vice of gambling has in it an essential deception. It is the deception that wealth can be obtained without hard work, without the struggles necessary for success. The virtues of hard work, saving for the future, investing wisely, are all undermined by this vice. Instead of the virtues, gambling brings greed, laziness, deception, exploitation, and live for the moment mentality, all things that destroy a person's character. Expanding gambling in Ohio is essentially like making our entire state think and act like gambling addicts. We can score the big windfall easily without hard work and discipline. We can make a bunch of money, and all our problems will be solved if we just add more gambling. But we know this is not true. Why do we know this is not true? Because part of the tax revenue we gain from gambling, Ohio laws on gambling require that part of the revenue we gain from gambling is spent to tell gamblers to stop gambling. We know it's wrong. We know it harms people. Listen, that is the ultimate gaslight. Gamble more so we can afford to fund our schools better. And now that you're harming yourself and harming your family, it's your own fault. And we're going to take part of the money you've lost, and we're going to use that money to tell you to stop doing it. Let's stop doing it before we start. We know it's the wrong direction. Gambling creates winners and losers. My children win with a good education, but they win because your family loses. Daddy isn't home taking an interest in his kids' education, doing bedtime prayers, reading the Bible with them each day because he's out at the bar all night or on his phone, gambling the family's money away. His family loses so that my family wins. The money his family loses pays for my kids' education. Our state should not be about creating winners and losers. We should commit to doing the hard work to help everyone find the way to true virtue and to fund our public schools and education the way they should be funded. It is worth it for us to work hard to fund our schools. Thank you. And next up, I would like to welcome Chris Lightfoot from the Center of Christian Virtue. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Rep. Newman. Thank you, Rep. Click. Thank you both for your service, especially on this issue. Good morning. My name is Chris Lightfoot. I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Church Ambassador Network at Center for Christian Virtue. And I'm here today on behalf of pastors around the state of Ohio who have come together to express a deep concern and an unwavering opposition to the proposed expansion of online gambling in our state. And I'm going to read a statement on behalf of those pastors this morning. This legislation is not simply a policy choice, it is a moral failing. Legalizing online poker and virtual casino gambling preys upon Ohio's most vulnerable citizens. By the industry's own admission, it encourages addiction, not opportunity, and exploitation instead of empowerment. As you can see here, DGen is an offshore AI-driven iGaming company currently soliciting investors here in Ohio. In their title slide of their pitch deck, their mission reads, quote, "To build games designed to hook, adapt, and dominate attention. Machine-trained on real-time player data, we weaponize data to make games addictive." That is their own words. Our faith calls upon us to protect the poor and uphold justice. As it is written in Isaiah 10:1, "Woe to those who make unjust laws," and the proposed gambling expansion is exactly that. It is unjust. It amounts to a massive wealth transfer, from low-income families to out-of-state gambling corporations, all under the guise of state revenue. We simply cannot leverage the hopes of the desperate in the name of balancing the state budget. We have to find a better way. Online gambling is available 24/7, as has already been mentioned. It doesn't require a trip to the casino, just a smartphone. This means that every home in Ohio becomes a casino, and every struggling resident is a target for financial ruin. This is particularly reckless during the current mental health crisis. Gambling addiction, as again has already been mentioned, carries the highest suicide rate among any addiction, and that's according to our own Ohio Casino Control Commission. We're especially troubled by the impact on young men. A Rutgers study recently out of New Jersey showed that dramatic spike in online gambling among this group. These are the future fathers and leaders of our communities, and Ohio should be equipping them for success, not enticing them into a trap and a debt load that they cannot overcome or win. From their pulpits and counseling sessions, Ohio pastors have seen the devastation of gambling and what it leaves in its wake. Broken homes, lost hope, devastated families. Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9 commands us to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves and to defend the rights of the poor and the needy. That is why, as of this morning, over 130 pastors have signed a letter urging Governor DeWine and our lawmakers to reject this legislation. Ohio must not fund its future on the losses of its people. Let us build a state where every citizen has a chance to thrive with dignity and with purpose. I'd like to bring up our subject matter expert, Les Bernal, who's dealing with this in similar situations all over the country. And after Les, we'll bring up several pastors who have signed this letter with us. Thank you.
So I just have 3 brief points that I'm going to share. My name is Les Bernal, and I'm the National Director for Stop Predatory Gambling. We are a national nonprofit organization in all 50 states, and we believe that people are worth more than money. We do not accept financial contributions from gambling interests. So 3 quick points. People always ask me, Les, why are you so passionate on this issue? Why are you so passionate on this issue? There's 3 quick pieces under that. I grew up in Massachusetts, where you're in grammar school, and we all kind of learned this in grammar school, the principle of no taxation without representation. It's one of our core democratic principles. Today in Ohio and across our country, we have a system of taxation by exploitation, because that's what Ohio's done when it comes to commercialized gambling. And so at its core, this isn't about whether or not people gamble privately. This is a fight between values of liberty versus greed. That's what this fight's about. You're going to hear, many stories the last 2 or 3 years. We keep hearing about the rising price of eggs and the cost and the impact it's had on family budgets. Well, in preparation for this visit to Ohio, I come from Boston. We went through all the annual reports for the state lottery, the regional, the Ohio Gambling Commission, to tabulate the amount of personal losses that the people of Ohio have suffered to state-sanctioned gambling here, and to look at how much it's affected family budgets. So very briefly, over the next 5 years, the people of Ohio are on course to lose more than $24 billion of their personal wealth to forms of gambling sanctioned by the state. Add up all the losses to the state lottery, regional casinos, and online gambling, it's $24 billion over the next 5 years. In 1 year alone, the fiscal year 2024, the people of the state lost $4.73 billion of personal wealth to commercialized gambling. That breaks down per minute, on a per minute basis, that's $9,132 every minute. Think about that. $9,132 every minute the people of Ohio are losing to forms of gambling sanctioned by state governments. Okay? And since casinos were legalized here in Ohio in 2012, you have all the losses to the lottery, casinos, and online gambling combined. That's $38 billion of lost personal wealth. That's a lot of eggs. That's a heck of a lot of eggs. And the last point I'll share with you is people say, hey, I get it, Les. Commercialized gambling's been a failure as a public policy here in Ohio and elsewhere. We're selling $50 scratch-off tickets. We got slot machines and laundromats in states. It's everywhere. We agree it's been a failure. But hey, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? What can we do? Forget gambling for a second. If there was a toothpaste on the market that was identified as being highly toxic, that was causing an epidemic of gambling addiction amongst young adults and teenagers, especially young males, if it was causing life-changing financial harm, if it was causing citizens like Xavier Irving, whose mom, Jacqueline, submitted testimony to the Senate today because Xavier committed suicide because of his online gambling addiction to Ohio state-sponsored sports gambling, okay? And if it was a product that was causing taxpayers who don't gamble to pay higher taxes over the long term, okay? All these forms of this toxic product, we wouldn't simply say, let's put it back into the toothpaste tube. We would take that toothpaste, we would throw it in the dumpster, and we would hold the people who create this product legally liable for the harm they caused. And we would take it out of the public square, okay? There's been an epic policy failure. Okay, and this is a government program we're talking about today. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about predatory gambling. Thank you very much.
We did an extensive interview with Les, and you can find that at ccv.org if you'd like to hear more. At this time, I'm going to bring up all of our pastors in the room, 3 of whom are going to give quick statements, and then the rest are standing in unity with those over 130 who have signed that letter opposing this expansion. So if Pastor Les Bowling, if you would lead us off with your statement, but if all of you would come forward and just stand together, and after these 3 quick statements, we will open it up for some questions. Thank you.
My name is Les Bowling. I pastor a church, pastor for 28 years on the east side of Columbus, Pickerton, Ohio. Been in full-time ministry a little over 40 years, and preside over a network of ministries that takes me all over the world. And I will just say this right out of the gate. I do a lot of travel, a lot of international travel. I have never encountered one good situation wherein there is a gambling casino of any form or fashion. The casino will quite often flourish, but the territory will look impoverished. Once lived on an Indian reservation for a period of time, and they have like 4 or 5 times the suicide rate and depression rate, drug rate, everything, and compared to the rest of the nation. But one of the things that keeps them there is gambling casinos, because it keeps them losing whatever state assistance they get, losing their resources, throwing them further into depression. Listen, the 2 great major pillars of any healthy society is its faith and its families. Its faith, what God it believes in, and its philosophy of life, and its families. If you dismantle the families, you dismantle the nation. And in practical, just pastoral ministry, I've never known anybody that I've walked with, and all the situations have been bad, that's got addicted to whether it be online gambling or any form of gambling, going to casinos, whatever it may be. It always ends in a really sad situation with the family becoming destitute, lacking the basic necessities of life. And the way it rolls basically is this. I've never seen them go to gambling with the motive of putting groceries on the table, paying off the mortgage, paying the bills, or sending the child to college. It's never for those reasons. But whatever they had in those things, they lose that. And so it kind of goes like this. It's a vicious cycle. First goes the money. Second goes the marriage. Third goes the inheritance that they have received, whether it's land or houses, that goes, which throws them into acute pain. And everybody has a threshold of pain. And once they go past that threshold of pain, then they start diving into alcohol. They start diving into drugs to be able to numb themselves of that pain. And they end up losing out on everything. I just don't know how that this is a win for Ohio when it's a loss for the families of Ohio. There's nothing good that comes out of it. And we as leaders, whether it be spiritual, whether it be marketplace, whether it be federal, civic, state, whatever it may be, we're called to protect lives, not profit from their pain. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is David Forbes. I'm a pastor of a local church and a governing church here in the city of Columbus and in the state of Ohio. I am opposed to this expansion of gambling, and I'm opposed for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's an assault against the family itself. Number 2, it's an assault against the finances of the people of our state. And number 3, it's an assault against our future as a state. Let me talk about those 3. Our families, and family is the foundation of God's creation, and therefore it's the foundation of our state. If our state is going to be strong, it's going to be because we have strong families. And if we introduce instruments and products into our state that damage our families, we are doing damage to our own self, to the economy of our state, and to the fiber of our state. It's against our finances because it squanders resources. I remember sitting in a room with an Ohio governor many years ago, 2 decades to be exact. And that governor explained to a group of pastors, hey, we need to bring on gambling so that we could close the hole in our budget. Here we are, and we still have a hole in our budget. It does not seem like this is the solution. And if we are fighting addiction to gambling by proposing more addiction to gambling, we have now become the arsonist and the fireman at the same time. I don't think that's the position that our government wants to stand. And then finally, it's our future. Our young men, especially our young men, are going to be targeted by this toxic behavior. And I do not believe the state should be a part of that expansion. Let me say this in closing. John Adams, one of our founding fathers, one of the founding fathers of this great nation, spoke about our Constitution, and he said, our Constitution was written for a moral and a religious people. So our Constitution, our capitalism, our way of life depends upon moral and religious people. That doesn't mean everybody has to go to church, but it does mean our laws and our statutes and our codes should be moral and religious. And to escort people into addiction is neither moral nor religious. I'm opposed to this expansion, and I thank God that somehow the move of goodness and greatness will cause this to fall in this state. Thank you so much.
My name is Tim Throckmorton. I pastored for 22 years here in Ohio, and for the last 8 years I've served the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C. And from coast to coast, this epidemic of gambling has brought sorrow and heartache like nothing else. And it's something that isn't promotional. It's not something that's talked about. It's not something that's looked at. But to Pastor Les's point, the pastors here before you today have wept with the families who, because of the addiction of gambling, have lost, have hurt, are in pain, or have suffered suicide in their family. And so we understand the ramifications of this in a long-term way. Yale medicine psychiatrist Mark Potenza conducted brain imaging studies on people who said that they have gambling problems, and they found that the brain activity, it acts similarly during monetary reward, processing individuals with gambling disorder as it does with people in binge eating, alcohol use, tobacco disorders, and other addictions. This is something that really is concerning and should be very troubling to many. As a pastor, that's one thing, but let me just go a little closer, because I have a grandson who's 10 years old, and I watch that boy play video games. And I watch, just as you have children and grandchildren, those who are expounding, those who are proposing this are masters at using that technology to grip and grab and bring in. And to think that someone intentionally would want my grandson, who I love dearly, to experience a dopamine hit in his brain because of that first sensation of gambling and finding satisfaction in something other than something wholesome. This, and with parents and all the technology and all the work we do to keep them focused on the things of God, I understand where the priorities are. But there are forces, and these are some of those forces that are trying to reach those children who are forming a worldview between the ages of 2 and 13. And so they're aiming at them. This is going to have a lasting effect, and an effect that will not just hurt the economy of Ohio, it will hurt the families and the souls of children and grandchildren for decades to come if we don't make a difference, and we don't make a difference now. The world at its worst needs the church at its best. Yes. And I believe we have some great men of God who are representative of hundreds, if not thousands, of pastors in this great state who stand against this proposal, this increase in gambling, and what it can bring to those who we love and serve here in the great state of Ohio. Thank you very much. Gary?
I'm grateful for these good and godly men to stand with us today. All I can say is that if Ohio gambles on gambling, we're not going to hit the jackpot. We're going to lose in human capital. We're going to lose in fathers and mothers, and we're going to have children who are suffering. And in firearms training, whether you're a law enforcement officer or for some other reason, you're always taught to look at what's beyond the target. You might have somebody who's threatening and dangerous standing right there before you, but before you pull that trigger, you need to look at what's on the other side. What's on the other side? It's our families. It's our children. It's our homes. This is what we call in the legislature unintended consequences. And we have to think this through. We can't go through for the quick fix. That's what gambling's all about, is the quick fix. This is a quick fix. It's an addiction. It's a state addiction to money. And we need to be responsible with our revenues. This is not responsible. And people make all kinds of excuses. Well, it's happening anyway. It's happening underground, and this way we can regulate it and we can profit from it. You can always find an excuse to do anything wrong that you want to do. I was taught it's never right to do the wrong thing in order to do the right thing. Let's apply this to another scenario. So what about online pornography? Can we say, okay, you know what? The best way we can handle that is to license it and tax it. And we'll make millions of dollars from that. Is that the next step? It's the same principle. We shouldn't do one. We shouldn't do the other. Online gambling is a bad bet for Ohio. And I'm grateful for these men of God who stand here with me today. And we're going to resist and we're going to stand against online gambling here in Ohio. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. I'll allow Chris Lightfoot to answer that question, or someone else.
Yeah, Mike Andrews, Communications Director for CCV. David Mahan specifically was going to speak to that aspect of it and was in chamber testifying on another bill today. So if you've got a specific question about that, I'd be happy to connect you with David Mahan this afternoon and have him answer that question for you.
So that's a fantastic question. You know, I was against sports gambling too when that came out, and I think I was one of 5 Republicans to vote against it. And I've reached out to some of my colleagues and said, listen, I love you, you're my friends, but you know, I cannot support this legislation. I think it's a very respectful thing to do, and they understand. But the more I talk about it, honestly, I thought I was going to be in a minority, and I still might be in a minority. But the more I talk about it, the more I'm hearing my colleagues saying, yeah, me too. Me too. I don't like this. No, me too. So I don't have any, I haven't whipped the count. I don't know the numbers. But I will tell you that it's been my history in my almost 5 years here that I try to do the right thing, even if I have to do it alone. And if no one else joins me, I'm still going to stand on what I think are the right principles. Representative Newman.
Yeah, well said. Couldn't agree more. You know, I was taught growing up, do you do what's right no matter what? I think there probably are quite a few legislators. I don't know how many there are, but I know there are more. But I think what I really hope to see is that this legislation would not be put into the budget, so it's just a quick pass. I mean, this certainly deserves complete vetting, complete attention to discussion, testimony, hearings. So I certainly think it deserves that, for sure. And I think we might be quite surprised how many legislators see that, you know, the steps we've taken in the past, that we thought were the right steps, you know, we keep finding out, well, no, those weren't right. So I don't know what the number is, but I know we're not alone. But I look forward to vigorous testimony and discussion on this.
If I can add to that, Representative Diane Mullins, who's also a pastor, was supposed to be with us today. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, she's not able to be here, but she certainly did ask us to make sure that everyone knew that she stood with us on this.
Representative Newman brought up the budget. Would you be willing to vote against the budget on this issue?
I'll face that challenge when I get there. I don't know, but I agree with him 100%. This should be something that's clearly vetted through the committee process. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming. Thank you, pastors.